So David's going to retire at 55. We're going to use the rule of 55 on his 401k. Mary's going to retire at 56. She's going to work her entire year of 55, and she's going to start taking her pension at age 57. So let's get into the details of this, and so you can see how we did a Your Financial EKG for David and Mary. All right? So here we go. We've got David and Mary. Now, David's 55 years old, and he's retiring in December of 2022. Mary is 54 years old, and she's going to retire in January of 2025, so at 56 years old. David's going to take his Social Security at 62, and that balance would be $2,075 per month. Now, he's taking Social Security at 62. That's 70% of his full retirement benefit. If he waited to age 67, he would get 100% of his full retirement benefit. And if he waited to age 70, he'd get 124% of his full retirement benefit. But the reason we're taking it age 62 is for David and Mary, we want to give some relief to their retirement investing accounts. They're taking all their retirement income from their retirement investments, and they have a higher monthly expenses, so we have a lot more retirement income we're going to need on a monthly basis. I'm going to show you that. So we're going to start Social Security at age 62 to give some relief to our retirement investing accounts. All right? Now, Mary gets a pension. She's going to take that at 57, and that's going to be $4,000 per month. She works for the county, and her projected COLA is 3%. Now, from an asset standpoint, we've got right at $1 million, so $1,029,305. Now, all this money outside of $40,000 is invested in the market. So, when you think about money being invested in the market, that money has to earn a rate of return, meaning it's earning something being invested in the stock market. So for the Financial EKG, we're going to give each one of their retirement investments a 6% rate of return. And the reason I'm using 6% is simply this. The stock market over the last 50 years has averaged 10%. If you factor in inflation, it's averaged 8%. Now, 6% is 2% behind the 8%, meaning I want to be more conservative in our investing approach now that we're going into retirement. We're not going to be invested directly into the S&P 500. We're not going to be invested directly into growth stocks or growth mutual funds or growth ETFs. They're retired. They're using their retirement investments for retirement income. And if the market has too much volatility, then that's going to throw off their retirement income plan. So the projections that we want to have for their assets are very low because we want to be conservative. When you get into retirement, it's not about how much you make, but it's about how much you keep. Yes, there's going to be good years where we might make 15 or 20% in the market. But when the market's negative 15%, when the market's negative 20, 25%, I want to make sure we keep the retirement investments that we have worked so hard and we've saved for so long to use in retirement. Remember, we not only want to get you to retirement, we want to get you through retirement and protect your ability to stay in retirement. Now, here's the 401k that I was talking about for David. It's got $515,549 in it. So when he retires, we're going to leave that at his current employer because we want to be able to use the rule of 55. Now, that doesn't mean we're not going to roll it out sometime between 55 and 59 and a half at the beginning of his retirement, just kind of getting a good feel for how much retirement income they're going to need. We're going to leave it there. We do have this 457 plan that we can use for retirement income. We're going to leave it in 457 now. The IRS does not charge a 10% penalty on 457 distributions pre-age 59 and a half. You do pay taxes on the money, but you don't pay the 10% penalty. So we've got those two vehicles that David and Mary can use for retirement income when needed. All right? Now, from an expense standpoint, we talked about this. They've got a higher amount of expenses. $6,500 per month is what they need in retirement income. Plus, we actually need an extra 1.6, so $1,666 as well. So not only do we need $6,500 monthly for the rest of their life, now this $6,500 is getting a COLA projection of 3.24%. So that money is growing at 3.24%. So when they get to retirement, the first day of January 1st of 2025, when both of them are retired, their projected monthly expenses after tax are $7,134. So this is after tax money too. So you got to remember, $6,500 after tax is really like $8,000 a month coming out of the portfolio, because how you're invested, how your accounts are qualified, meaning IRA, Roth IRA, 401k, 403b, 457, pension, Social Security, how you receive money out of certain retirement investments, certain retirement income, depends on how those vehicles are taxed. So if we're pulling money out of 401k and we need $1,000, we're actually going to have to pull out maybe $1,500 because of taxes. All right? So we've got that. Now, from a tax standpoint, let's go to the year 2023. Right now, in the early parts of their taxes, they're actually in an effective tax rate of 7.97, which is low. Where they're really going to feel some pain is once they get over 72 and they have to start taking out a required minimum distribution, and their expenses continue to grow and they have to pull more and more money out of their retirement assets that are qualified, meaning pre-tax. And Mary has that guaranteed pension that's taxable every month, and that's going to increase with COLA. So their taxes are going to continue. 10.86 in the year 2035. If we go to the year 2045, we bump up to 15.47. So for these people, once they get to a place where they feel comfortable in taxes, we might start talking about Roth conversions to get money out of pre-tax and into post-tax. Now again, we can't sprinkle pixie dust on all of our money and get it tax-free, but we can try our best to get as much tax-free as possible. So one of the things that we need to look at in this financial EKG are Roth conversion strategies, or taking money out of our IRAs and investing them in vehicles that will be tax-free down the road. Okay? So pre-retirement, so this is going to be until Mary's retired. We should have about $1.1 million based on current projections when both of them are retired. So the $1 million question, can I retire at 55 with $1 million? We go here. David's 58 at this time. Mary's 57, because Dave retired at 55. Mary retired at the end of her 56th year, so she's 57. They've got $1.1 million saved for retirement when both of them are retired. And if you look at the bottom here, we go to age 100. They've got $456,000 in retirement assets at 100. So the question's been answered, yes, they can retire. Now let's look at some of the specifics. We go back up to the top. Here's Mary's pension, the $4,000. You see how it increases with COLA. Here's Social Security kicking on for David, so there's the $2,075. And here's our cash flow that's coming out. That extra income, it has a inflation adjusted increase on it as well. And so we have a decline of money coming out of our investments, meaning money, this red, that negative red's not a bad thing. What it means is we're just using our assets for retirement income, which is what we're supposed to do, right? We're supposed to save our retirement investing accounts for retirement income. So they're using that. You can see it's less and less as the pensions and Social Securities are kicked on together. And then as they get older, it grows and grows and grows. Now, you know, at 94 and 93, are they going to need $23,000 in monthly expenses? Probably not. But I just read a study. The number one fear in retirement is running out of money. The second fear in retirement is long-term care. The average cost of long-term care in Colorado, where they live, is $9,000 a month. Now that's a nursing home, full care, $9,000 a month. So if you think maybe I'm not going to need $23,000 a month in retirement expenses, well, what if you're in long-term care or some kind of care? So you might. I'm just saying, $9,000 today is different than $9,000 20 years from now. So when we look at the strategy overall, they actually can retire at 55 with $1 million. Now, they have a pension, we're taking Social Security early, but let's look at markets. Let's look at historical market returns and see what happens if we had invested this in the year 2000, or if we had started in the year 1968. Now, one way that we do this is through using the historical market analysis in the software. But another way we do this is through a Monte Carlo simulation. And I want to show you a Monte Carlo simulation. So this would be an investment of $1 million. Now, a Monte Carlo simulation is just a mathematical equation taking like 1,000 different scenarios and saying, okay, will this work? So for them, we've got $1 million. That's what we're starting with. Our withdrawal amount is $29,000 annually. Now, the reason it's $29,000 annually and not the $102,000, which is in the actual retirement EKG, is because we're taking out her pension and we're taking out his Social Security, because those are two forms of guaranteed income that have inflation, okay? So what we need out of our portfolio is only $29,000 per year, which is 2.9% with inflation per year. So we're going to do an inflation adjustment. We're going to do a withdrawal frequency annually just for the software. And we're going to look at this for 40 years. So I want to get them to 95 in the Monte Carlo. The tax treatment, pre-tax returns. All of their money's pre-tax, which means they're going to have to take taxes on top of the $29,000. We're going to look at historical returns for the simulation. So we're going to go back 100 years for historical returns. Yes, full history is what we're going to use. Now, the inflation, we're going to use historical inflation, and we're going to rebalance the portfolio annually. Now, for this video, I made the portfolio super simple. Basically, we've got 60% in U.S. stock and 40% in bond. So what we're trying to figure out is, will this work if we have 60% invested in equity and 40% invested in fixed income? 60-40, kind of the foundational, traditional investing approach. So, does this work? Well, if you look, simulated portfolio balances, they go up, they don't go down. We don't like to see down, we want to see up. Portfolio success is 100%. So now, we see that the Monte Carlo tells us that we have a 100% success rate. So let's go back to the software and let's go back to actual market returns. We want to use both to give us a good idea of what we're going to do going forward. So if we started this portfolio in the year 2000 and we invested, so here's that -10, -13, -23, that's 00, 01, 02, where would our portfolio be? Well, we're actually out of money at 88 and 87. So you see how that's different than the Monte Carlo? The Monte Carlo is not looking at everything in detail like the Your Financial EKG. So I can tell David Maris, hey, listen, this will work, but if we have some bad years in the market, like we did in the year 2000 and then 2007 and 8, we might have to readjust the plan. We might have to lower expenses. We might have to look at taking a part-time job. So in reality, yes, this plan works, but there needs to be flexibility in the retirement income plan. Now let's go to another decade. I want to look at 1968. And the reason I want to look at 1968 is because I believe that's the decade that mirrors what we're going through right now the most. High inflation. We've got a bursting workforce. And so 1968 to 1982 was when we had high inflation, Jimmy Carter era, the oil embargo. Volcker came in as Fed president. He raised rates to try to lower inflation, which we finally got under control in the 80s. So if we started in 1968 investing this portfolio, all else being equal, we're out of money at 93 and 92. So it's better than 2000, 2010, but it still gives me some pause, because 1968 to 1982, we didn't have the crashes like we had from 2000 to 2010. We did have a crash in 76 of 40%, but that's really the only one. So now we need to look at this and say, hey guys, we really need to be careful. Can I retire at 55 with $1 million? Yeah, but we really need to be careful. So just for kicks and giggles, just because I like the 1990s, because I grew up in the 1990s. Anybody else grew up in the 1990s? Leave it in the comments. I think the 90s were great. So if we retired in 1990, the roaring 90s, at 100 and 101, we'd have $25 million. That's ridiculous. That ain't gonna come back. That ain't happening again. But it's always fun to look at, all right? So I hope this video has helped answer the question for you. Can I retire at 55 with $1 million? I hope it's given you some ideas and concepts that you can use in your retirement planning today. And if you want help from me, look in the description below. That's how you get in contact with us. Have a great day. God bless. Bye-bye.